Your kidney doctor may have told you to cut out coffee. A lot of them do. But here's the number that changed the conversation. People who drink coffee had an 18% lower risk of ever reaching dialysis compared to people who drank none. A pooled analysis published in the American Journal of Kidney Diseases in 2020, 12 studies, 505,000 people followed for up to 24 years, found that coffee drinkers carried a 28% lower risk of dying from chronic kidney disease. That's one stat, 500,000 people. And today, we're walking through exactly which coffees the evidence supports and how to prepare them. If you're new to this channel, this is where we break down exactly what to eat at every stage of kidney disease, based on what the research actually shows, not a one-size-fits-all list. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. 6 morning coffees, ranked from good to best, starting with number 6. Number 6, instant coffee, black. Most people dismiss instant as low grade, but for kidney disease, what matters is what's in the cup. And instant coffee retains chlorogenic acids, the antioxidant compounds responsible for a significant portion of coffee's protective effect on kidney tissue. The drying and reconstitution process reduces their concentration slightly compared to fresh brewed, but they're present. That's what matters. For stages 1 through 3, 1 to 2 cups per day. At stage 4, bring it to 1 cup and verify that your potassium has been checked recently. Not because instant is high in potassium, but because at stage 4, your total daily budget is tighter and every source counts. For stage 5 and dialysis, include the fluid volume in your daily total and limit to 1 cup. A 2025 analysis in Scientific Reports, 49,827 U.S. adults, NHANES data from 1999 through 2018, found that higher daily coffee consumption was linked to 24% lower odds of chronic kidney disease after adjusting for age, blood pressure, and diabetes. Instant coffee drinkers were part of that population. 1 level teaspoon of instant powder in 8 ounces of hot water. No additives. That is the recipe. Instant works. Don't let the label stop you. Number 5, French press coffee. Black, no additives. This is where preparation starts to matter in a way that changes the ranking. Coffee brewed without a paper filter retains 2 compounds, cafestol and kawil. These are diterpenes, naturally occurring fats in the coffee bean, that raise LDL cholesterol when they reach the bloodstream. For a healthy adult, that's a marginal concern. For someone managing kidney disease, the calculation is different. Chronic kidney disease doubles your baseline cardiovascular risk. A compound that independently raises LDL in a system already under elevated cardiac stress is a variable worth managing. Think of a paper filter as the precision membrane in a water treatment plant. The kidney is the first filtration stage, removing the heavy load. The paper filter in your coffee maker is the secondary membrane that catches what the first stage misses. When the first stage is operating at reduced capacity, what passes through the secondary membrane starts to carry more weight. We'll return to this more precisely in a few minutes. At stages 1 and 2, French press is still net positive. The chlorogenic acid and antioxidant profile is intact, and cardiovascular risk is lower at those stages. At stage 3 and beyond, the math shifts. Switch to paper, 1 to 2 cups, black. At stages 1 to 2, it counts. At stage 3, a paper filter is the smarter choice, which is why this sits at number 5. French press is fine at stage 1 or 2. At stage 3, get a paper filter. One thing before the next 4, your exact potassium and phosphorus limits depend on your stage and your most recent labs. Everything in this video is stage tagged, but bring this list to your kidney team before changing your diet. What works at stage 2 is not automatically what works at stage 4. That's 2, 4 coffees left, and number 1 is probably what you're already drinking, just not quite the right way. Stick with me past the list. Right after the top coffee, I'm giving you 4 things you can actually add to your cup without touching your potassium or phosphorus numbers. And after that, real coffee moments, the ones you thought were off the table, so stage by stage. Here's the potassium question because it comes up every time coffee and kidney disease are mentioned together. An 8-ounce cup of brewed black coffee contains approximately 115 milligrams of potassium, about 3% of a standard stage 3 daily limit. 1 to 2 cups of black coffee does not move the needle in a clinically meaningful way for stages 1 through 4. At stage 5 and dialysis, where the potassium restriction is tighter, count every milligram, but 115 per cup is manageable with careful tracking. The real potassium problem in coffee comes from volume, not concentration. An 8-ounce cup is 8 ounces. A large specialty shop cup can be 20 ounces. If you're counting 3 cups but drinking from a 20-ounce mug, you've had 6. Size the cup before you count it. Number 4, cold brew. Filtered, black, unsweetened. Cold brew is made by steeping coarsely ground coffee in cold or room temperature water for 12 to 24 hours, then filtering the result. The slow extraction produces a lower acid concentrate, which matters for patients at later stages where the kidneys are filtering acid less efficiently and gastrointestinal sensitivity is more common. Lower acidity, same compounds. Because cold brew is filtered during preparation, caffeistol is already removed. The chlorogenic acid and polyphenol profile is comparable to hot drip. A team at Johns Hopkins published in Kidney International Reports in 2022 the atherosclerosis risk in communities study. 14,207 adults followed for a median of 24 years found that those drinking 2 to 3 cups of coffee daily had a 22 to 23% lower risk of acute kidney injury. That risk reduction held across preparation methods. For stages 1 through 4, 8 ounces counts toward your daily fluid target. For stage 5 and dialysis, every ounce goes into your fluid total. That's not a restriction. It's accounting. No syrups, no sweeteners. Read the label on any store-bought cold brew before it goes in the cup. If you see the word phosphate, find a different brand. 8 ounces of cold brew over ice. Count it toward your fluid target. Number 3, espresso. Black, 1 to 2 shots before 10 in the morning. This one earns its ranking for a reason that doesn't apply to any other coffee on this list. Volume. A single espresso shot is 1 ounce. 2 shots is 2 ounces of total fluid. For patients at stages 4 and 5, and for dialysis patients managing strict daily fluid allowances, espresso delivers the highest antioxidant density for the lowest possible fluid load. A single shot carries approximately 30 to 40 milligrams of potassium. 2 shots, 60 to 80 milligrams, well within safe range at every stage where coffee is permitted. The phosphorus content of plain espresso is negligible. The mechanism at the kidney level is the same across preparations. Chlorogenic acids reduce oxidative stress at the glomerular filtration barrier, the membrane where kidney function is measured. How that works precisely and why the paper filter matters more than most people realize is in the mechanism section right after the list. For all stages, including 4, 5, and dialysis, 1 to 2 shots of plain espresso before 10 a.m. Dialysis patients, include the fluid volume in your count. It's less than a quarter cup. 2 shots, black, before 10 a.m., the most kidney-efficient cup on this list. The question directly, can you still drink coffee at stage 4 or 5? Yes, with calibration. Stage 4, 1 to 2 cups of black filtered coffee earlier in the day. Monitor how your blood pressure responds. Regular drinkers develop tolerance, but if you're newly at stage 4 and haven't been a consistent coffee drinker, check your pressure 90 minutes after your first cup for a week. Stage 5 and pre-dialysis, 1 cup, black or with a clean label plant-based milk counted in your fluid total. Dialysis, 1 cup within your fluid allowance. Espresso just ranked at number 3 precisely for these patients. When total fluid is the binding constraint, a 2-ounce serving that delivers the same compounds as an 8-ounce cup is a practical advantage, not a compromise. Number 2, black decaf, paper filtered. The assumption most people bring to this conversation is that stripping the caffeine strips the benefit. It doesn't. The kidney protective compounds in coffee, in chlorogenic acids, melanoidins, polyphenols, are not caffeine. They're separate bioactive structures that survive the decaffeination process intact. A cup of black paper filtered decaf delivers the same antioxidant and anti-inflammatory profile as caffeinated drip. The 2020 AJKD meta-analysis included decaf drinkers. The protection tracked. What decaf removes? The temporary blood pressure spike caffeine produces, typically 5 to 10 points, lasting 1 to 3 hours in most regular drinkers. the 4 to 6 hour half-life that interferes with deep sleep when consumed after noon. For patients at stage 4 or 5 with blood pressure that isn't fully controlled, decaf isn't a consolation prize. It is the right choice. For stages 1 through 5 and dialysis, black paper filtered decaf, same volume guidelines as caffeinated, 1 to 2 cups at stages 4 and 5. 1 cup for dialysis within fluid limits. Black decaf, paper filtered before noon. All the protection, none of the caffeine risk. One more question before number 1. Is decaf really just as protective for the kidneys? For the specific mechanism we're covering, antioxidant protection at the glomerular filtration unit, yes. Chlorogenic acids and melanoidins are present in comparable concentrations in both, where caffeinated has an additional edge, metabolic function. Regular caffeine intake is associated with improved insulin sensitivity, and since type 2 diabetes is the leading driver of kidney disease, that matters for some patients. If you have well-managed blood pressure and no sleep concerns, caffeinated filtered drip is your number 1. If you have a blood pressure concern or caffeine sensitivity, decaf is your number 1. The list works in either direction. Before number 1, and this one changes how most people are making their morning cup. Right after I give you the top coffee, I'm giving you 4 things you can actually add to your cup without touching your numbers. Stay with me. Number 1, hot black coffee, paper filtered, 2 cups, done before noon. This is what the data supports most directly. The 2020 American Journal of Kidney Diseases analysis, 505,000 people, 24 years, showed the strongest kidney protective signal in regular drip coffee drinkers at approximately 2 cups per day. The 2025 Scientific Reports analysis of nearly 50,000 U.S. adults confirmed higher daily consumption was linked to 24% lower CKD odds. The Johns Hopkins ARIC data, 14,207 people, a 24-year follow-up, found the 22 to 23% acute kidney injury risk reduction, peaking at 2 to 3 cups of drip coffee daily. Hot water extraction through a paper filter gives you the full chlorogenic acid profile. The filter removes cafestol. 2 cups delivers the antioxidant load the studies were measuring, at a combined potassium level of roughly 230 milligrams, well within stage 3 limits. Before noon respects caffeine's 4 to 6 hour half-life, which extends further as kidney function declines, because caffeine is cleared more slowly at lower eGFR levels. Poor sleep raises the same inflammatory markers that coffee is working to reduce. The cup that protects your kidneys during the day should not be the cup that disrupts the sleep that also protects your kidneys at night. For stages 1 through 3, 2 to 3 cups. Stage 4, 1 to 2 cups. Stage 5 and dialysis, 1 cup within your fluid total, always black, or with one of the 4 additions coming right now, 2 cups, black, paper filtered, done before noon. That is the protocol the data supports. Most people cannot go fully black overnight, and that's not a failure. The question isn't whether you need something in your coffee. The question is which additions keep your phosphorus intact and which ones undo what the coffee is doing. Here are 4 that work at most kidney disease stages. Addition 1, cinnamon. A 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon in your coffee adds 0 potassium worth tracking, 0 phosphate additives, and a documented anti-inflammatory contribution. Cinnamon's active compounds reduce oxidative markers through pathways that overlap with the same mechanism coffee's chlorogenic acids are working on. You're not neutralizing the coffee, you're layering onto it. For stages 1 through 5 and dialysis, no stage restriction, no label check required. Works in hot drip, cold brew, and decaf. A 1/4 teaspoon in the cup, no additives. Works at every stage. Addition 2, pure vanilla extract, not vanilla-flavored syrup, not vanilla creamer. Pure vanilla extract, a bottle whose ingredient list reads, vanilla bean extractives and alcohol. A few drops change the flavor profile of black coffee without introducing phosphate additives or meaningful potassium. Check the label once. If you see vanilla bean and alcohol, add a few drops and stop reading. If you see sodium phosphate, calcium phosphate, or any ingredient ending in the word phosphate, that is a phosphate delivery vehicle with a vanilla label. Put it back. For stages 1 through 5 and dialysis, appropriate in small amounts at every stage. Read the label once. vanilla and alcohol, a few drops and you're done. Addition 3, unsweetened almond milk, clean label. 2 tablespoons of plain unsweetened almond milk from a clean label brand adds roughly 17 milligrams of potassium. Natural phosphorus from plant-based milk absorbs at a meaningfully lower rate than additive phosphorus. The label check here is important. The same brand can offer 2 versions, one with phosphate additives, one without. Any ingredient ending in phosphate is the signal to choose the other version. For stages 1 through 4, 2 tablespoons with a clean label product is appropriate. Stage 5 and dialysis, check your potassium labs before adding any milk alternative. The margin is tighter at those stages. 2 tablespoons, clean label. Check once. Then it's in the routine. And before the last one, if you've ever felt that managing kidney disease makes your morning feel like a calculation problem instead of a cup of coffee, what comes right after this addition is for you. Real coffee moments, stage by stage. Still on the table. Here's the last addition first. Addition 4, a small amount of real cream. Half and half or heavy cream, not coffee creamer. Real cream contains natural phosphorus, which absorbs at a lower rate than the additive phosphorus in processed creamers. 1 to 2 tablespoons at stages 1 through 3 is manageable when tracked against your labs. At stage 4, limit to 1 tablespoon and monitor your phosphorus trend. At stage 5 and dialysis, switch to clean label unsweetened almond milk. The total phosphorus load is lower and more predictable. The rule is simple. If the ingredient list reads like a food, it's real cream. If you see sodium phosphate anywhere on that label, that's a phosphate supplement with dairy flavor. 1 to 2 tablespoons, stages 1 through 3. 1 tablespoon at stage 4. Read the label every time you switch brands. If you're managing kidney disease and nobody's broken the diet down in a way that's actually specific to your stage, that's exactly what managing nutrition and living healthy with kidney disease is. It's all in there, evidence-based, stage by stage. Link in the description. Subscribe so you're there when the next one comes out. 5 coffee moments that are still available at your stage, real ones. Moment 1, the morning Americano. An Americano is espresso pulled long. 2 shots of espresso diluted with 4 to 6 ounces of hot water. The result is a coffee-sized drink with the compound profile of espresso, high antioxidant density, lower acidity than drip, and a controlled fluid volume. This works at every stage, including 4, 5, and dialysis. The total fluid load is what you make it: 4 ounces of water for the tightest fluid restrictions, 6 ounces for more flexibility. No additives, no syrups. The flavor is cleaner and less bitter than straight espresso because dilution opens the aromatic compounds. For dialysis patients who want variety beyond a single drip cup, an Americano counted precisely in your fluid total is a complete morning ritual. All stages, 2 shots, 4 to 6 ounces of hot water. Count the total volume. Moment 2. Iced cold brew with a splash of clean label oat milk. This one requires a label check before it goes into rotation. Cold brew over ice with 2 tablespoons of clean label unsweetened oat milk, a product whose ingredient list contains oats and water and no phosphate additives. Oat milk's natural phosphorus absorbs at roughly 50 to 60%. Lower than dairy, higher than almond, manageable with tracking at the right stages. For stages 1 through 3, daily is appropriate with a clean label oat milk and an 8-ounce cold brew serving. For stage 4, treat this as a 3 times per week option, not a daily default, and monitor phosphorus at your next lab draw. For stage 5 and dialysis, swap oat milk for unsweetened almond milk, lower total phosphorus and include every ounce in your fluid total. The label check is non-negotiable here. Oat milks vary significantly between brands. The words dipotassium phosphate or sodium phosphate on the ingredient list end the search for that brand. Clean label oat milk, 2 tablespoons, stages 1 to 3, daily. Stage 4, 3 times a week. This is the moment to say it clearly. The phosphorus and potassium limits in this video are tied to your stage and your most recent labs, not a universal number. A stage 2 patient and a stage 4 patient do not share the same limits. Before you change what goes into your cup, bring this to your kidney team. The goal isn't fear of coffee, it's precision about what goes around it. Moment 3, decaf cinnamon latte with clean label unsweetened almond milk. This is the evening option, or the option for any patient who can't tolerate caffeine for any reason. 1 to 2 shots of paper-filtered decaf espresso, 2 tablespoons of clean-label unsweetened almond milk, a quarter teaspoon of ground cinnamon. The result is a warm drink with the full polyphenol and chlorogenic acid profile of a regular coffee, the anti-inflammatory contribution from cinnamon, and zero caffeine effect on sleep or blood pressure. For stages 1 through 5 and dialysis, this is the widest permission option on this list. The only check is the almond milk label. All stages. Decaf espresso, clean label almond milk, cinnamon. Safe in the evening without touching sleep. Moment 4. The pour-over ritual. A pour-over is paper-filtered drip coffee made by slowly pouring hot water over grounds in a paper cone filter. The slow extraction and paper filtration give you the full compound profile and remove caffeine exactly as efficiently as a standard drip machine. The pour-over produces the same kidney outcome as a standard filtered drip machine at the same volumes. What it adds is intentionality. 4 minutes at the start of a morning that often involves a medication schedule and a lab sheet. Some patients find that useful, others find it unnecessary. Both responses are correct. For all stages, same volume guidelines as item number 1 on the main list. All stages, same volume as regular filtered drip. The ritual is a bonus, not a requirement. Moment 5, the clean coffee shop order. Tall drip, black, no syrups. That's the order. At any coffee shop that serves filtered drip coffee, which is most, this order delivers 12 ounces of paper-filtered black coffee with no phosphate additives. For stages 1 through 3, this is appropriate daily. For stages 4 and 5, ask for a short or small drip, 8 ounces, and count it in your totals. What to avoid? Anything labeled latte, flavored, or prepared with a creamer. Flavored lattes at major coffee chains frequently contain phosphate-based additives absorbed at close to 100%. A flavored latte can carry 5 to 10 times more absorbable phosphorus than a cup of black coffee. The difference isn't in the coffee, it's in what the chain puts around it. The order doesn't have to be complicated, it has to be precise. Tall drip, black, no syrups. All stages. Ask for a smaller size at stage 4 and beyond. Now the why. And this is worth understanding because it explains not just why coffee helps, but why the preparation is doing something specific to your risk profile. In a healthy kidney, excess phosphate from food is filtered and excreted in urine. In chronic kidney disease, that filtration capacity drops and phosphate accumulates in the blood. The body responds by releasing a signaling protein called FGF23, fibroblast growth factor 23. FGF23's initial job is to prompt the kidneys to excrete more phosphate. But when it stays elevated for months or years, as it does in CKD, it does something else. It directly damages the inner lining of blood vessels and accelerates arterial stiffening. There's a second injury running in parallel. Chronically elevated FGF23 suppresses calcitriol, the active form of vitamin D, that reduces calcium absorption from food. The body compensates by drawing calcium from bone, which leaves bone weaker and deposits the calcium inside arterial walls instead. Stiffer arteries, more fragile bone, both driven by the same phosphate accumulation that started in the kidney. Where coffee enters, the chlorogenic acids in black coffee reduce oxidative stress at the glomerular filtration barrier, the exact site where phosphate filtration failure begins. Less inflammation at that barrier means the filtration unit maintains function slightly longer and at slightly better efficiency. The effect is not a correction. It is a modifying influence on the rate of decline. Small differences in that rate, compounded over years, are what separates stable from progressing at stage 3. Now recall the water treatment plant from earlier. The kidney is the slow sand filter, the first filtration stage, removing the heavy load. The paper filter in your coffee maker is the precision membrane, the secondary stage that catches what the first stage misses. When the slow sand filter is compromised, what passes through the precision membrane matters more. Café stall, removed by paper, independently raises LDL, which in a system with calcifying arterial walls adds a compounding cardiovascular burden. The paper filter is not just a coffee preference, it is two protective decisions in one step. Right now, pull out your phone and search the coffee brand you use with the word ingredients. If you see the word phosphate, this is the moment to find a different brand. If you don't, your morning cup is already working for you. If this reframed something your doctor never explained, hit the like button. That's how people in the same situation find this channel. Why hasn't your nephrologist told you any of this? It's a fair question, and the answer is structural, not personal. The American Journal of Kidney Diseases meta-analysis, 12 studies, 505,000 people, published in 2020. The Johns Hopkins ARIC paper on acute kidney injury risk, published in Kidney International Reports in 2022. The scientific report's NHANES analysis confirming 24% lower CKD odds with higher coffee intake, published in 2025. As of 2024, the KDIGO guidelines, the primary international framework for CKD management, carry no specific recommendation for coffee consumption. That is a minimum 4-year gap between population-scale evidence and formal guidance on a question that affects 1 in 7 American adults. In a standard nephrology follow-up visit, typically 15 to 20 minutes, while the clinical agenda covers medication management, lab review, blood pressure, dietary compliance, and referrals. That's the structure. Adding to that agenda the nuance that preparation method matters. That paper filtration removes a cholesterol-raising compound, that phosphate additives in creamers absorb at a different rate than natural phosphorus, that before noon timing accounts for caffeine's extended half-life at lower eGFR. That's 45 seconds the appointment clock does not reliably schedule. Limit caffeine takes 3 seconds and carries no ambiguity. It is faster, simpler, and defensible. It's not withholding. It's triage. This is not a criticism of your care team. The pattern here is the appointment system itself. Research to guideline lag in nutrition medicine is long, structural, not exceptional. And every year that the guideline hasn't caught up is a year in which limit caffeine is the default instruction in thousands of nephrology offices. Your nephrologist is reading the same journals. The gap isn't the knowledge. The gap is the appointment slot that was never built for 45-second nutritional precision. And the pattern runs deeper than coffee. It runs through every piece of dietary evidence that has outpaced formal guideline revision. Your diet during that gap is managed by whatever fit into the last 15-minute visit. Which is why the next question is not, why didn't they tell me? It's how do I bring this into the room? Because the only way the specificity of this evidence reaches your chart before the guidelines catch up is if someone brings it in with them. The someone is you. And in a moment, I'm going to give you the exact words, the sentence that gets this written down. 2 things this section gives you: the opening sentence you say at your next appointment and the sentence that gets the conversation into your chart. Start with what to ask. At your next kidney appointment, before the visit ends, bring up your coffee, not as a confession, as a clinical data point you want documented. Here is how to frame it. I've been having about 2 cups of black filtered coffee each morning before noon. I wanted to ask, at my current stage and with my current labs, is that amount in preparation appropriate for me? That sentence does 3 things. It names the preparation, black filtered, it names the timing, before noon, and it names the specific clinical variables, stage, and labs that govern the answer. You're not asking a general question. You're asking a specific one that your doctor can respond to with a specific answer. You'll get one of 3 responses. Response 1, they agree and affirm. That sounds appropriate for your stage. This is the outcome the data predicts for most stage 1 through stage 3 patients with controlled blood pressure. When this happens, ask the follow-up that locks it in. Would you be comfortable noting in my chart that I asked about my coffee intake, specifically that I'm having black filtered coffee before noon, and that we discussed whether it's appropriate for my current stage and my potassium and phosphorus levels? That is the keystone sentence. It puts the conversation in the longitudinal record. The next nephrologist who opens your chart, the dietitian who reviews your dietary history, the hospital physician who manages an acute kidney injury, all of them will see that this question was asked and answered at your stage. A note in the chart is not just documentation. It is a clinical signal that you are an active participant in your own management. That changes how the next question you bring gets received. Response 2, they ask you to reduce. I'd prefer you stay at 1 cup for now. When this happens, ask the clarifying question. Can you tell me what specific concern you have at my current stage? Is it my potassium trend, my phosphorus, my blood pressure response, or something else? That question narrows the instruction from a general recommendation to a specific, measurable variable you can track. Then ask the chart note question, adapted. Would you be comfortable noting that we discussed this and that I've agreed to reduce to 1 cup while we watch my potassium/phosphorus/blood pressure? Now you have a documented reason and a documented path to revisit the question at the next appointment when the lab results come in. Response 3. They say cut it out entirely. If your doctor's position is complete avoidance, ask directly, is there a specific lab value or medication interaction that makes coffee a concern for me specifically? Or is this a general precaution? You are not challenging their judgment. You are asking for the clinical basis of the instruction so you can understand what to watch and whether it changes over time. If they cite a specific contraindication, tacrolimus interaction in a transplant patient, uncontrolled potassium at stage 5, blood pressure that consistently climbs with caffeine, that is actionable. Follow it. If the answer is a general caution with no specific basis in your current labs, ask whether you can discuss it with your renal dietitian. A renal dietitian is trained in exactly this level of stage-specific dietary nuance. This is the referral that gets the question answered at the right level of precision. 3 things not to do. Don't argue in the appointment. The goal is documentation and clarity, not persuasion. The chart note is worth more than winning any exchange in the room. Don't cite a YouTube video. If you cite anything, cite a large meta-analysis published in the American Journal of Kidney Diseases that lands with a different weight than a channel name. Don't change your coffee habits the day before the appointment without telling your team. If you've recently increased or decreased your intake, say so. It affects the blood pressure reading and the advice. A note for kidney transplant recipients. If you take tacrolimus or cyclosporine, bring any change in coffee habits to your transplant team before making it. Not because coffee directly interacts with these medications in a standard clinical sense, but because dietary pattern changes in complex multi-drug regimens carry variables your transplant team should know about. This is the one coffee conversation that happens before the change. The keystone sentence one more time, for every other patient. Would you be comfortable noting in my chart that I asked about my coffee intake, specifically that I'm having black filtered coffee before noon, and that we discussed whether it's appropriate for my current stage and my potassium and phosphorus levels? Say it out loud before your appointment, twice. It will feel natural by the time you're in the room. Sit back for a moment. Picture this. You're at your next appointment. The chart note question is in your phone. You know the preparation. Paper filtered 2 cups before noon. You've checked the ingredient list on every creamer and milk alternative that's been near your cup. The word phosphate hasn't appeared on any of them. When the doctor asks about your diet, you don't say, I drink coffee and I'm not sure if I should. You say, I have 2 cups of black filtered coffee before noon, and I'd like to note that we discussed whether that's appropriate for my current stage and my potassium and phosphorus levels. That is not a dietary confession. That is a clinical data point delivered by someone who has done the reading. And here's what that habit generalizes to every food question you'll encounter for the rest of your life. The question is never, is this food good or bad for kidney disease? The question is, at my stage, with my labs, in what preparation, in what amount, at what frequency? That is the template. Coffee happens to be the best researched food in the world for making that template visible because the data is large enough and specific enough to actually answer it. The person who reads the back of the creamer before it goes in the cup is not being paranoid. They're applying the same precision to their morning routine that they apply to their lab report. Phosphorus from a food additive absorbs differently than phosphorus from a natural source. That's a fact worth knowing. And once you know it, you'll apply it without thinking the next time you stand in a grocery aisle and the time after that. The habit is transferable. It works for every food on your plate. It works for every number on your panel. Coffee is where most people learn it because coffee is where the fear was misplaced in the first place. The researchers at Johns Hopkins didn't find a supplement. They found a morning habit, already in 2 billion cups a day, that moved an acute kidney injury risk number by 22%. The habit was already there. The preparation is what makes it count. The data on coffee and kidney health is cleaner than most people expect. 2 cups, black, paper-filtered, before noon. That is a consistent signal across 505,000 people in a 24-year follow-up. Not a curiosity, a directional finding with a biological mechanism that holds across stages. The one thing most people watching this can do today, look at what they add to their coffee. Not whether they drink it, what goes around it, the label on the creamer, the ingredient list on the flavored syrup. That's where the phosphate risk lives. And once you read one label carefully, you'll read all of them the same way. Share this with the one person in your life who's been told to give up their morning coffee but isn't sure why. Someone recently diagnosed or someone who's been managing stage 3 for years without anyone breaking down the preparation this precisely. One share. It costs nothing and it might change what they reach for tomorrow morning. If the number that's been following you from appointment to appointment isn't your potassium, if it's your creatinine, the next video to watch is Insert Creatinine video title. It's on screen now.